Okay, good, good, good. Now, if you remember from the functions unit, this is how we start our domain problem. Remember, domain is how much of the x-axis is covered by this graph. Like how far does this graph go to the left versus how far this graph goes to the right, and everything that it covers in between. Now, if we look at our graphs, either one, the growth or the decay graph, look at where the left end goes to. Is there any limit to this left end? This left end goes on, right, forever and ever. Yeah, so if I asked you where the left edge of this graph is, it would be, negative infinity. This graph goes on forever to the left. Yeah, so let's talk about to the right. How far does this graph go to the right? Does it go on forever to the right too? Oh yeah, negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, do you remember what we call this? Yeah, all real numbers. Now, it turns out, no matter how you move this graph, in the next video, we're going to talk about how we can transform this graph. We can move it up and down, side to side. We can even flip it. Yeah. So no matter how we flip it, move it, it always goes on forever to the left and right. So the domain for all exponential functions is all real numbers. Let's talk range. Okay, range. Yes. Remember, if domain was x's from left to right, then range is y's from bottom to top. Yeah, you remember that song. Go back to the old video if you have to, but range is the floor to the ceiling. So let's talk about this graph, right? Is there a floor to this graph? Like what y value does it not go below? Now, if you look at both of these graphs, it looks like there's a floor. Where is that floor? Yeah, that floor is y equals 0. So there is a floor here. So yeah, the floor is 0. Now let's talk about if it can actually be equal to 0. Does this ever reach that axis? Does it ever hit the floor? I don't know. Stand by a door and walk halfway to that door. Then walk halfway to that door. Then walk halfway to that door. Will you ever reach the door? Blew your mind, didn't I? Yeah. Y will never ever actually reach 0. It'll just get real close to it. Exactly right. Now what about the top? How high does that go up? To infinity and beyond. Yeah, exactly right. So remember how we go back to the other video and to refresh your memory, but remember how we do this. Yeah, we erase the infinity side and then we flip that to read it correctly. Yeah, exactly right. Now what this says is this entire graph is above 0 without ever touching 0. And look, it's exactly right. Yeah. So now this might change depending on how we transform and move and slide this graph. But, one other thing, we got to say something about this line that's going side to side. Yeah, it's a huge word. It's called an asymptote. Yeah. An asymptote is an imaginary line on the graph that the graph will never ever touch or cross. Yeah, and remember we said that this graph will never ever touch that axis. So that axis is called an asymptote because it will never ever touch that line. Yeah. Go ahead to the next video, man, where we start moving and sliding these graphs all around. I'm gonna see you there. Thanks for checking this out, man. I hope it helped. Bye.